While the AMD GPUs are not having melting cable drama around their new launch, that doesn't mean they're completely short of trouble. So AMD's 7900 series reference boards are being reported for having some overheating issues. Now, what do we mean specifically by that? It's not first of all, it's not every GPU. And second of all, it's not the entire GPU. So this, I think, was first reported by Hardware Lux, and there's a lot of places reporting on it now. But what's going on here is there seems to be an unusually large delta or difference between the average GPU temperature and the GPU hotspot temperature, specifically on the made by AMD reference designs. So for example, on this chart coming from Hardware Lux, you can see that while the average GPU temperature on the AMD Radeon RX 7900 XTX might give a reading of 56 degrees, its hotspot temperature could be as high as 109. Now, that doesn't mean this is happening to everybody's card in all circumstances, but these are some of the reported results that are a little bit concerning. Now, you can see these other made by AMD MBA designs over here are showing similar issues, large gaps in temperature. But if I get myself out of the way and we go over here to these AIB partner designs, we can see that some of them don't show that quite as large of a gap. Now, why would this be an issue in the first place? Well, the problem is that if you, basically two things. Number one, you might be getting excessive fan noise where your GPU seems like the temperature's fine, but then the fans are ramping up and it's really noisy. But the actual more performance-related issue would be that the GPU could actually thermal throttle and downclock and reduce your performance if it has a hotspot that's going beyond the spec, which would be annoying, right? Now, it's unclear how widespread this issue is, if it's on all reference cards, just a few of them. We did not see a lot of reports of this in the initial reviews of the AMD reference designs, so it's possible that this is just coming from certain people, certain issues. And there is an update on the original Hardware Lux article, and while I don't really speak German, I think this is German, it basically says that the AMD engineers are going to be, the GPU team is going to be looking into the matter. So AMD has actually taken this seriously enough to say that they are looking into it. Now, what, if anything, could be causing this? Well, first of all, if it's only an issue on the AMD reference cards, then that would mean it would be some sort of an issue with their particular cooling design. And again, we're not even sure if this is happening on all reference cards, so let's not blow this completely out of proportion before we are completely sure how widespread the issue is. Now, what could cause it? There's been some speculation, like in this initial article about the topic, thinking that maybe because of the MCM design, there not being one single heat spreader over the entire, GPU plus the memory modules, all of that, that maybe if there was any height differences at all there, that it could be difficult for the cooling to be applied evenly. But that's just speculation in this article. And again, AMD did say they are looking into it, so hopefully we do actually hear something from them soon about that matter. But like I said, it does not seem to be a problem with the actual GPU silicon. It seems to be a cooling issue since this was not being reported on a lot of the other board manufacturer designs. And again, it's unclear if this is even happening on all of AMD's reference coolers. Now, moving on to some fixed issues. So some of the issues that were reported in launch reviews involved higher than expected idle power consumption, as well as higher than expected power consumption just for video playback and when connecting to certain monitors, not all monitors, that kind of a stuff. Well, it's looking like AMD's moving quick to try to fix some of these. This is the notes from an updated driver release. And this one is noticing improvements to power usage during hardware-accelerated video playback, and it does specifically say further power efficiency improvements are planned for future releases. So under the known issues, they do mention the high idle power. High idle power is a big one that a lot of people are annoyed about, has situationally been observed. So this isn't all the time, but it's when using select high resolution and high refresh rate displays. Also noticing a few other, general noted issues and whatnot that are not fixed yet, but would be on their list of things to get fixed. So it looks like AMD is investigating and working on these problems, and hopefully we'll see some solutions soon. Now, in good news, I guess, it's good news, price drop. So the 7900 XT especially seems overpriced, especially just relative to the XTX model, because, the pricing delta does not match the performance delta, so that doesn't seem like a good deal, right? And usually you'd get a better deal from the lower end model. Well, we are seeing at Mindfactory in Germany, at least, the 7900 XT version available at 999 euros, which is 5% below the MSRP of that card. Now, this videocards.com article, and by the way, as usual, all my sources will be in the description, is noting that this is likely just due to the fact that the euro is strengthening versus the dollar, and not that there's some kind of big discount happening exactly. But we are seeing it, at least on this one model, a little bit of a discount, and that is technically below the $1,049 MSRP. So good news. I hope we continue to see more price cuts on the 7900 XT, especially. I'd also like to see some cuts on the XTX. And then the 4080 as well, but we will see what happens. Okay, now how about some Intel news? So this is either absolutely irrelevant or potentially a really big deal. What do you guys make of it? So ever since the Intel Arc GPUs launched, there have been rumors of it being canceled, okay? Now, this is definitely not it being canceled, but it is a big change in the structuring of Intel's graphics division. So previously they had an AXG division, which I think had the Arc graphics as well as the data center graphics and all of that kind of under the same umbrella, being headed by Raja Koduri. But Raja Koduri is going to be moving back to the position at Intel of chief architect, which puts him in charge of a variety of overall divisions, things like that. And, there's a whole bunch of information here, and I don't want to get into all of the details, but basically what's happening is the AXG division, where the Intel Arc GPUs were, but they weren't the only thing there. And again, Raja was the lead. It's being split into two. So now the ARC's division is going to be joining the client computing group under the leadership of Lisa Pierce, not Raja Koduri. And that this would be the group, that would be designing Battlemage and Celestial GPUs and all of that. And Intel has reconfirmed that nothing has changed with regards to their GPU roadmap, and this restructure is likely only designed to reduce the workload on Raja Koduri. However, I don't know, guys, what's jumping out to me here isn't that I think Intel is just like, we are going to cancel this, and this is just step one in that phase. But what it does feel like to me is by separating their data center oriented team from their gaming team, does feel like to me it would be then easier to at a later date decide, well, gaming's not really working out for us, but computing is, and then cut the gaming section. I don't know. I'm not saying I think they're going to do that right now. I think they are continuing on with Battlemage and Celestial, but I think that this restructuring could make it easier to separate out and then cut the gaming side if they wanted to in the future. So we'll see what comes of this. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Let's move on to some Nvidia news. So the Nvidia GeForce RTX 3050 is now having a different version available. And this is using the GA107 GPU. And as I've mentioned on my channel before, there's these names like GA107, GA106, GA104, GA102. What are these? These are the names of the actual like GPU die, which is then sometimes cut down and put into multiple versions. Like, you know, GA102 has your 3090 and your 3080, that kind of thing. Anyway, the RTX 3050 desktop had been on GA106, not GA107. But it's looking like now there's a listing from MSI, and this is being reported by videocards.com. But in this screenshot from MSI, they're listing a new model, an RTX Ventus 2X 8G OC V1, as compared to their original just 8G OC without the V1. And the difference here is, well, first of all, not much. In other words, when we saw like the 8GB version of the 3060, we were very concerned about performance differences. Well, at least on paper, this looks like it's still boosting to exactly the same amount. It looks like it's still, 14 gigabit per second memory, 2560 CUDA cores on both of them, 128-bit memory. All of that looks the same. The only major difference we're seeing here is actually in the power consumption being listed at 115 watts instead of 130 watts. And it's saying it only needs a 6-pin power connector instead of an 8-pin power connector. So that's kind of interesting. And this is coming directly from MSI's website. So it looks like the shift down from the GA106 to the GA107 has at least saved some power consumption. Now that's, to me, only a good thing as long as it actually performs the same, because if it doesn't, then that would be concerning. But all the specs do seem to be pointing to the same, so maybe this is just a good thing. Now, my only real problem with the 3050 is that it's still just way too expensive, but that's a whole other matter. Now, in other Nvidia news, it looks like ASUS and Noctua are getting ready to make another GPU cooler together. We saw this on the 3000 series for a few of the cards, and now it's looking like they're preparing a 40 series version, and the rumor is that we'll be seeing some brown coolers at CES. Now, the fact that it's being announced at CES does make some people wonder if this is going to be a 4070 Ti, because, again, the 4070 Ti technically has not been announced yet, but everybody's expecting to hear about it at CES, and it being the unlaunched 4080 12GB, all of that. But it would be interesting to see what they're coming out with, or maybe they're coming out with multiple chips, all of that. We'll see. But the main problem with the Noctua coolers from the 3000 series generation was just they were extremely expensive compared to other coolers. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. Let's move on to some GPU leaker drama. So in my last video, I mentioned that Moore's Law is Dead had shown renders of an alleged RTX Titan cooler design with two 16-pin connectors, and this thing looked absolutely massive. Thing's crazy. However, you know, our favorite Copite7 Kimmy on Twitter does not agree that this is what the Titan would look like, and just has replied to Moore's Law is Dead saying, totally fake, the Titan doesn't look like this, it has 3 fans. So I don't want to comment on the drama side of this, other than saying if we believe Copite, then there is or was at some point a Titan in the works here, and that it has 3 fans, which is interesting because then it wouldn't just be a scaled up, like thicker version of the cooler we were seeing on like in this render, just like a thicker version of the the 4090 and 4080 designs, all of that. So I don't know what to make of it. They're both just leaks and rumors, nothing official, but thought I'd at least share the drama. Now, do we expect to see a 40 series Titan or maybe a 4090 Ti? Well, there definitely does seem to be room for either a Titan or a 4090 Ti because the actual full, speaking of the dies, the AD102 die, which is used on the RTX 4090, does have 18,432 CUDA cores in its full configuration, and the 4090 is not currently using all of those. So I think we do expect there to be some sort of 4090 Ti or Titan incoming, but whether it has 3 coolers or 1, I'll leave up to you guys to weigh in on the drama there. Who's your favorite leaker? And, you know, I don't know. Now, let's move back to some quicker stories, and here's something AMD related. I actually meant to put this on the end of my AMD news, whatever. Stable Diffusion, which I think many of you would be aware of as an extremely popular AI image art generator, is being supported now on AMD RDNA 3 architecture. Looks like there's a release specific to AMD. And that's good news because one of the things about AMD versus Nvidia is that a lot of times, especially on AI-related work, things like that, it seems like Nvidia is better supported. So it's interesting to see this popular tech with Stable Diffusion getting an AMD RDNA 3 release. So that's pretty cool. In another quick story, I'm seeing Samsung Electronics develops industry's first 12nm class DDR5 DRAM. Now, this is a press release from Samsung themselves, and digging through it, all I can say is it looks like this will be beginning mass production in 2023, so I doubt we would see anything come of this on the consumer side until much later into 2023. If in 2023 at all, but what they're basically saying is that this should have better performance and power efficiency, but I didn't get a lot of specific details out of it other than they did say leveraging the latest DDR5 standard, Samsung's 12nm class DRAM will help unlock speeds of up to 7.2 gigabits per second, translates into processing 2 30 gigabyte UHD movies in just 1 second. But anyway, we'll see if anything comes of this. It'd be nice if we got the, like, Samsung B-Die version, you know, like we had on DDR4 for DDR5 or something. I don't know. Now, GPU-Z, which is an extremely popular GPU monitoring technology, program, I guess is what I should be calling it, got a new version. And in the new version, it's saying that it's adding support for the 7900 XT and XTX, which is nice. In other interesting news I'm spotting on here, though, it's also supporting the 4070 Ti, which is, again, not officially announced yet, but we're all expecting it very soon, early January. I thought this was interesting. A 3080 Ti 20 gigabyte, which never actually made it to consumer production, although a few models did exist. Well, apparently you can now see all its specs if you got GPU-Z and managed to track down a 3080 Ti 20 gigabyte. Anyway, a few more things updated there, but in general, GPU-Z should be up and running on your 7900 XT, XTX, and if you get one early, a 4070 Ti. In GPU cooler design news, we're seeing, man, there's so many white GPU designs coming out. Colorful is showing off their 4090 and 4080 white graphics card. Now, in addition to just the white design, the other interesting thing to note here is the little board thing popping up out of it. I don't think my mouse pointer is showing up in my video. I just realized that. I'm trying to mouse point at the black, like, thing up there. I think that's a detachable, and like you could put it in different places. You could put it on the GPU. You could put it somewhere in your case. I think it's like a actual little LCD screen that can read out stats on your GPU cooling and all of that. Now, this is just one of many recent white GPU designs coming out from various companies. So if you're planning that all-white build with a high-end Nvidia GPU, there's a lot of options now, although some of these, including possibly this colorful one, might be China exclusive, at least for now. Now, speaking of GPU cooler designs and the 4070 Ti, which is, again, not supposed to quite exist yet, but anyway, we're seeing the 4070 Ti AMP and Trinity graphics card series leaked early from videocards.com here. So if you're interested in these Zotac models of the 4070 Ti, we do now have some pictures. Zotac is going with this kind of curved edge look, which I think some people may like. I'm not sure what I think about it. I don't think it'd be for me, but maybe it would match some other people's builds a little bit better. I think I hear my kids starting to wake up, so I'm gonna move through the rest of this video here a little bit quicker. We're seeing ASUS H770 and B760 motherboards showing up on Amazon, along with some price tags. Looks like this is on the German Amazon. And if you compare it, this Video Cards article has an interesting comparison for the 760 versus B660 versions. In other words, noticing the price increase versus the 6 series. Now, this one's only showing a 3% increase, but the vast majority of these are showing at least a 20%, if not 30% or more pricing increase versus their predecessor version. Now, again, these would be models to go along with the 13th gen Raptor Lake series, which should be coming out with some new CPUs with the 65-watt TDP designs. Here's some pictures of the motherboards if you're interested. Looks like, speaking of Intel's 65-watt designs, the Intel Core i5-13500 has been tested further. And again, that's because apparently in certain Asian stores, they're just sitting on shelves despite not supposed to being available yet. And in this case, as reported by videocards.com, Jonathan Alva, Lucky Noob, who is an overclocker, has got his hands on one and gave some thoughts. Overall, this is an interesting chip because compared to the 12500, which did not have efficiency cores, this gets efficiency cores. So in terms of multi-threaded workloads, this should be a big step up from the 12500. Now, also, while these are 65-watt chips, you can run them into a less efficient mode, into the power level 2, the max power version, and apparently testing that out, which is what we're seeing here, that did see a big performance jump, going from 17,104 to 21,103 when going up to the max power mode, which is interesting, and a few little notes here as well. And again, all my links will be in the description if you want to take a closer look. Now, speaking of CPUs, how about AMD's CPUs? We're seeing the Ryzen 9 7950X price dropping to $569 on Amazon, which is down quite a bit from the original MSRP. And again, we should be seeing some non-X versions coming from AMD soon, which would have lower power targets, also a little bit lower performance, but also lower price tags. And these are where the current X lineups are sitting in terms of current pricing versus launch pricing and the reduction we see there. Now, in quick PC game news, we're seeing Steam Winter Sale on and offering deals on some interesting games. I do highly recommend the Spider-Man games, and those appear to be discounted. This WCCF Tech article is, you can see off to the side of me here, I'll just scroll through it quick, showing some of the discounts available on a variety of games here. Some of these are quite good games, and so you might grab yourself some new ones to pick up and maybe vote in the Steam Awards while you're at it. Now, speaking of PC games, there had been some rumors that Gran Turismo 7 was being considered for a PC version, given some statements from the game's developer. However, he has clarified that there is absolutely no work being done currently developing a PC version. So he says he's open to all possible options, but is not currently doing anything to actually create a PC version. We'll see what comes of it, because Sony has been bringing a lot of their exclusives to PC, so maybe it will still end up being the case. Excuse me. Now, RTX Remix. This is a cool tool that has not been fully opened up to modders yet. We got Portal RTX Remix, but that was developed by Nvidia's Lightspeed Studios. The full public version of RTX Remix hasn't been made available yet, but people have already been enthusiastic about just dropping files from Portal RTX into old games and just kind of seeing what happens. And Nvidia has apparently made that easier with one of their updates to Portal RTX. So Portal RTX got an update with some bug fixes and other minor improvements, including a low and medium graphics preset, so it might be easier for you to run this on some of the less powerful RTX cards. No word on it being any easier on the AMD GPUs, which didn't seem to be well supported. But anyway, they're also saying that they're super impressed with all the amazing work the community has been doing on RTX Remix title compatibility, and as such, we decided to include some general compatibility fixes in this patch to further this great work. We looked at some common issues the community are running into and compiled a handful of fixes we think are low risk enough to include in the Portal with RTX patch. Now, so they're saying this hasn't fixed every possible issue, but basically if you're dropping the Portal RTX files into older games, grab the new versions from this update because apparently they have made it more compatible with other games, I guess is what I'm saying. Speaking of which, we're seeing more screenshots of Max Payne with the Portal RTX added in and showing how that can improve the lighting and all that. Again, none of these work perfectly because people can't get into the actual full developer tools that will get released later with Portal RTX. We're also seeing Battlefield 1942 updated with Portal's RTX, again, just kind of dropping in the files. Apparently at first, reflections got way too shiny, but there were some updates done adding a roughness bias to tweak that, and apparently looked a bit better afterwards, and you guys could kind of see what's going on there. But anyway, as I said, my kids are getting up, and I'm going to let you guys go. I hope all of you have an excellent day.